Oh, hey there. It started before I realized it. Hey, good morning. This is Vance Williams, and welcome to my morning Forex trading session. This morning, the markets have been tuning into Draghi with the ECB in Europe. He's sounding remarkably upbeat about their policies and the Eurozone economy. But this is something I said you should expect to hear about a week ago. If the US dollar climbs and climbs, then the US will tend to focus on the negatives, and the Eurozone will focus on the positives. It's kind of part of how they stabilize price movement. I started some reading yesterday by a professor. It's a very, very long paper about the liquidity trap. I kind of see it. I've seen it for a long time, but I wanted to understand it more. It was written by a man actually in 1998 who saw this first happening in Japan. So as I learn more, I'll share my take on all of that, because I mean, the economy works very different now, and I don't think many people understand it. So right now, we know what's most important is that their priority is controlled inflation and stability. And so even though we may not understand the complication of everything that's going on economically, we certainly know what to watch for in terms of what we do. Okay, so when you have an event like this speech with Draghi, and where the markets are focused on his words, that's what's really important. It's not that he's speaking, it's that, the markets are tuning in and saying, hey, what's really going on? This creates a heightened speculation and the potential for hyper volatility. In these circumstances, your risk is always increased. So yeah, play with it if you're new. Experience is always better than a book or a theory. Do it in a demo account. But if you're more experienced or you're itching to trade, trade in a demo account. Part of being a good trader is managing your emotions, and I talk a lot about those skills. But as a rule, emotions need to be listened to and expressed. It's a skill that human beings are just learning, really. So if you're itching to trade or eager, find a way to express that emotion, but do it in a way that doesn't put your live account at risk. You can do this in a variety of ways. You can trade a demo account. You can play online poker for free. Or you can do what I do. I play the online game Destiny. If you've never played video games, which I didn't until 2 years ago, it's a kind of a painful learning curve, learning the remote and all that. But, the main thing is there's really no one answer for everyone. The thing about life is that each of us have to learn what makes life work for us, but if you're going to trade currency, you have to manage your risk. And that means you have to know what affects your ability to win. And emotions are one of them. So keep that in mind. So let's take a look at price. I'd like to go to the euro. I had this line in place here from yesterday. I extended it over, and you can see the sellers have put a lot of orders in defending this area right here. And we see kind of the same thing happening on the pound. We had a supply line right here, which is based on these two TD points. You can see it held. Then I extended it over, and you can see it held again. Then you see it held again, and then now the sellers are pushing it back down into this range. So you can see that the tools that I use are very accurate as long as you use them correctly. You can't just, draw a line and invent a way to use them. You have to view them in the context of how are they affecting the supply and demand. And, this takes some experience, but if you follow me, you'll see that, I pretty much predict what's going to happen more than 90% of the time. And now managing risk is a little bit differently. My winning percentage is probably somewhere between 80 and 90. But that's because even if you know which direction it's very likely to go, you also have to manage your risk in such a way that this involves your stop loss, your entry, and your target. So you'll hear me talk about all this. And let me show you my book. If you have not read it, and before I even show it to you, I want you to be clear that I don't charge for this. I don't ask for your email for this. I just give it to you. And this book you can get right here. You'll notice when you click on this this link, I don't ask for an email. I just give you the book. And the reason why is because a year ago I retired, and I worked for 11 years with traders and trading currency, and I wrote several books. But in this book, I did something I didn't do before. I actually gave you all of the inside scoop on how I train traders. In other words, when I worked one-on-one with them, there was no classes. I worked with them one-on-one, and I guided them without telling them some of the things that I was doing. And so all of that's in the book. It's going to be the most valuable Forex book that you've ever gotten, even if you paid money for it, which you're not. So so I just want to leave that behind, really, as just a guide for those of you who are really serious. And, you know, if you're not really serious, you're not going to like this book, because it involves a lot of work, you know, because the truth is that, you know, you're not going to be successful at this unless you change. And that involves, you know, building some new neural networks and that sort of thing. But this is going to help you master not only the market, but master yourself. So forexartofwar.com, you shouldn't have any trouble finding that. All right, so now we see that the sellers have pushed it back down in this range. Now, I tend to never trade counter trend, and what I refer to as counter trend is there's a balance of money here that these moving averages are monitoring. And this is not all the money in the Forex market. This is kind of the money that's available, you know, that investors and traders have at their disposal, you know, for a day, 4 hours, for a week. And this is the money that they have access to put into the Forex. And that's the money that I'm following. And this 21 and 55 EMA are very accurate on the 30-minute for measuring that balance. And it is true that moving averages are lagging, and by themselves they're not accurate. But you'll notice in my book that we only use them in the context of a trend advance. And when you use them in the context of a trend advance, the moving averages suddenly and remarkably become 100% accurate. So, all right, so as you can see, they stalled here, got above here, now they're down. Now, what I would do here, if I was even, and this is counter trend, but what I would do, it's counter trend and it's during a period of hyper volatility. So I wouldn't trade right now, but if those two elements were not present, I would be looking right at this area on the 5-minute. You'll see me doing this over and over again, and I'd be looking to see if they closed under. And so, see this? Look at this. Boom, 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 boom. This line was in place before this got here, guys. All right, so look at them hold it right there. Now, what that tells you is the buyers and sellers are at 50-50 over a 5-minute period there, and a 5-minute period there, and a 5-minute period there, and then they close under. So this is the first sign of a change right here, and that's what I look for. And when you see something like this, and if it wasn't counter trend, you could usually count on a movement of 10 to 15 pips. There's 17. So, and we would manage our risk by keeping our stop up in the old range, going for a very conservative target. And you'll see me do this live in real time. I don't take trades and then go, hey, here's what I did. I actually do it in real time right in front of you. So, and also if you're in the community, and as you'll see in my book, I should say, I encourage you to do the same thing, to trade in real time. That is actually a skill that you need, the skill to tell others what you think before the outcome is known. This is something that you have to get comfortable with. It's very uncomfortable for many people to say, okay, this is what I think is going to happen, and here's why. Because you're making yourself vulnerable. You know, you're going to be wrong very often, and you might be concerned about what that means socially. If you want to make money trading Forex, you have to learn not to be concerned about what others think, and to see the world as it is. And so when you post your trades in any community, however you do it, and you post it in real time before the outcome is known, you say, okay, I just entered this, here's my stop, here's my target, here's why I think it's going to work out this way. And then you wait and see what happens. When you do it that way, you're saying, here's what I know now, here's what I see right now. And when you do that, you enable more skilled and more experienced traders to see exactly where you are and give you the advice that you need to improve. And so that's why it's so important. So there's a lot of skills that you need. They're all in my book. You can read it in my book. But I'm going to tend to look at the market when there's not anything serious that we can do going on. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the book. And you can see the euro has dramatically reversed down. It's bouncing at about 50% of today's move. We had a move up of about 111, and let's see if that's about 50%. It actually dipped down to almost 61.8 right here. So you, just as you had the sellers seeing this area where the, keep in mind this is a 30-minute chart, and for every 30-minute period that ever approached this area right here, the sellers were able to beat it back. So that's what created this tremendous selling interest right here. Now, by the same token, this move today, moving back to 50% and 61.8, the pattern is that there will always be some, well, always, like almost always, a lot of buying interest in this area, kind of defending this move up. And then also there will be almost always be buying interest at the last stand of this move, which is 76.4. So there'll be orders. You can see them being picked up here right now, just based upon the area that price is in. So if you're looking for a potential trend change right now to the downside, you want to see some move just even slightly below 76.4, as long as that move is not triggered during the release of high impact data. Let's see. So I do these sessions Tuesday through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you want to see me take a trade, go back to a session 2 days ago, and you'll see that. I'm wondering if I uploaded. I think I uploaded. You can see it at forexartofwar.com or on YouTube, what have you. But go take a look at Tuesday morning. You'll have to follow your own chart to see it hit the target the next day, because I think it didn't hit the target till a minute after I ended. But if you want to see how I actually do what I just talked about, you can check out that particular session. Let's see. As far as what I would do right now, I wouldn't do anything right now myself. Just we're in the realm of hyper volatility with the Draghi speech, and there's this will all shake out, and once it shakes out, the market will get comfortable and choose a direction. All right, so that's about it. I'll be back Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, with my take on the fundamentals and also price movement and trades and trading psychology and more. You guys have a great weekend. That does it for me this week.